I just want to comment on something that is completely unrelated to football, but I was watching Vach earlier, Vach Lombardi, shout out to Sensei. And at the end of his stream, he started talking about the Kendrick diss track that came out this morning, or I guess it's yesterday morning at this point. And he talked about, I'm not going to talk about the whole thing. He went into it. If you didn't see it, you should definitely go check out his live stream, check out the replay from earlier today, fast forward to the end. He went into it at an expert level. It was phenomenal. But he brought up the beginning of the audio. If you haven't heard Kendrick Lamar's track Euphoria, at the very beginning there's reversed audio, a lot like what Kendrick Lamar did in Damn, where there was a lot of reversed audio. So it's kind of like that. But the audio came from The Wiz. It came from a scene in The Wiz where Richard Pryor, who plays The Wiz, who plays the wizard in The Wiz, says, "Everything they say about me is true." And he got really close to touching on something that I thought he was going to go into. And me being somebody, like, The Wiz is literally one of my favorite movies of all time. I was like, okay, just for fun, if enough people are still watching at the end of the stream, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. And what that particular line meant to me, since Vach didn't touch on it earlier. So the line, "Everything they say about me is true," it comes at a point in the movie The Wiz where Dorothy, the Scarecrow, Lion, and Tin Man, they have just killed Eveline, and they're going back because it was the wizard who sent them to kill Eveline. So they're going back to basically let him know, hey, we killed Eveline. Now, help us get the things that we asked for. So Dorothy wants to go home. Scarecrow wants a brain, so on and so forth. But when they walk in, they see a very different scene than what they saw before. And they realize that the wizard isn't real. And they confront him about being a fake. Now, there was a couple of things that were significant. One, when Vach was talking about the diss track and he talked about this particular line, one of the things that he pointed out was that Kendrick in his song called out Drake for basically switching not only genres, but also switching cultures and switching accents. And just basically doing that at will based on, I guess, whatever he thought would sell or whatever he thought would be convenient or engaging at the time. In this particular scene, we hear the wizard say something similar when he talks about how he ended up in that hot air balloon in the first place. So I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just play the scene and then I'll point it out whenever we get to that point that I was just like, yo, if Kendrick Lamar actually made this connection, he is literally the dopest. So let's get into it.
Hello? Hello in there?
All right. So that giant head on the ground that you see on the left earlier in the movie. So this is when they first saw the Wiz.
Get home.
You want you overstuffed animal cracker? I want to get the hell out of here!
So that giant metallic head is the Wiz. That's what they saw the first time, and they thought that was the Wiz.
Can you help us, sir?
What's in it for me?
So that's the point at which he commands them to kill Eveline. And then you fast forward to where we are right now, and they see the head lying on the ground. So for anyone who hasn't actually seen this movie, that's what's happening here. They walked in, they see the head on the ground, and they immediately realize that dude pulled one over on him.
Wait a minute.
Does this look familiar?
Guess who got had?
And real quick, I want to acknowledge what Roy is saying in the chat about the connection that people made between The Wiz and Michael Jackson. It is true. There were a couple of references in Kendrick's track that kind of suggested like a Michael Jackson to Prince sort of dynamic between Drake and Kendrick. And I do think that connection might have been here as well. But they're going to say a couple of things that I think are an even more direct comparison between The Wiz and Drake. So right here is when they're about to walk up and pull the blanket off of him, and he's going to jump up and be scared and admit that he's a phony. So you'll hear that line that he says in the beginning, but it's reversed audio.
Everything they say about me is true. I'm a phony. I got no powers. I got no right to be pretending to be the Wiz. I got nothing. Hocus pocus.
All right, so here's where he's about to explain how he went from Atlantic City to ending up in the Emerald City of Oz. And this was where I was like, he starts talking about all the things that he went through to end up in that situation in the first place. And I was like, I wonder if Kendrick Lamar made the connection between this and the way Drake has switched genres and switched his style so many times.
Look, I ran with any and everything. Alderman, councilman, assembly leader. I became a laughing stock. I couldn't even get on the ticket.
So that was the part that I was talking about, that I was like, I wonder if Kendrick made that connection, because he talks about how he's a politician, but he couldn't even get elected. And he's like, you know, I ran for all these positions and I ran for so many things that I ran out of things to run for. And I eventually ran for dog catcher. And I can't recall it verbatim, but, you know, when Vach was doing his recounting of all this, he kind of talked about not only, once again, it's like experimenting with different genres is one thing, but we've actually like literally seen Drake experiment with different cultures, like, you know, insert himself in different cultures, use different accents, use different slang, claim different places that he's lived or done certain things, all for the sake of enhancing his entertainment, which if it was just a genre, I feel like there would be less room for criticism. But when you actually transform yourself, and by some people's account, even physically, when you transform yourself that many ways, that many different times, yeah, I does think it leaves, the echo is getting to me again. I do think it leaves a little bit of room for people to question your authenticity, which is what is happening here. He's being, and by here, I mean with The Wiz, this guy is being called out not only for not being The Wiz, like you ended up in the position of pretending to be The Wiz because you had literally pretended to do so many things and you were so desperate to make it work that you ended up in this hot air balloon, landed here, and you couldn't even be your authentic self here.
Blew me into the clouds.
And there is something else that happens in this scene that I feel like is connected to something Kendrick said. He's going to get to it in a second, or they're going to get to it in a second, I should say.
And you mean you sent us to kill Eveline, knowing we might never come back?
So that was a line that actually reminded me of something else connected to this whole beef situation, because here we see The Wiz talking about how, hey, you know, me becoming The Wiz was an accident. They never seen a hot air balloon like mine. Kind of like if we think about like in Drake's rise to fame, a lot of people talked about like, oh, his style is so unique. He sounds different. He brings something different to music and to pop culture, right? And so this guy's like, they'd never seen a hot air balloon like mine. So they declared me to be The Wiz, you know? And here Dorothy is listening to this. She just went and had to kill a witch. And if you've seen this movie, you know her and her friends almost died. And she's like, so you sent us to kill Eveline, knowing we might never come back? And that just kind of made me think about how Drake like pulled all these other people into his diss tracks, some of them real, like J. Cole, some of them fake, like Tupac, which I felt like was really inappropriate. But it's like, he's going at Kendrick, and it's almost like Kendrick is acknowledging like, yo, you sent all these people to come for me in these tracks, knowing that I might body all y'all, not just you. What is wrong with you, dude? All to protect this image that you've created of yourself that's not even real. So, like, when I really started thinking about not only the line itself, but everything that happened in that scene, I was just like, man, I wonder if Kendrick actually meant to go that deep with it. And it's easy to assume that it's like a coincidence, but honestly, just knowing what I know about Kendrick Lamar, because Kendrick is another one of those people who, like, the same way I just like looked at all those interviews with Tyler Guyton, Kendrick is one of those people who I used to do those with. So knowing what I know about him, I feel like there's a high likelihood that all of these connections existed whenever he decided to put that reversed audio on that track. And so I feel like now every time I think about Drake and J. Cole and all them and all the stuff that they've been doing, I'm going to think of this line. Hold on, I'm going to play it again.
And you mean
You
sent us to kill Eveline, knowing we might never come back?
She would have killed me. She would have found out I had no power, and she took over.
That's no excuse. Come on.
Please.
Said that's no excuse. So they find out that they've basically been used. This dude tricks them, and they're just like, you know what? We're out. We already killed Eveline. We can't undo that. We're out. One more parallel that I want to draw, and I probably should have pulled up the lyrics for this, so, my apologies for anybody who I'm not being specific enough for. But there were several references in Kendrick's track made to Drake making dance music that he liked to dance to. And so the other thing that I thought about with this parallel between the Wiz admitting to being phony and that potentially being something that Kendrick is applying to Drake, I thought about the scene when Dorothy the Tin Man, the Lion, and the Scarecrow are trying to find the Emerald City. They're trying to get to the Wiz, and they come up on the Emerald City, and it's all these people outside doing what? Dancing. Not only are they dancing, but the Wiz keeps changing his mind about what he wants, what color he wants, and what he wants to see from the people outside dancing. And every time he changes his mind, they change what they're wearing, they change the genre of music that they're doing, so they can keep dancing and try to appease the Wiz. I'm going to try to find the section where that happens. It's like an 8-minute section, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm just going to play a couple of the transitions once again for anyone who's not familiar with this movie. All right, so I'm not sure how deep this is into the scene, Green, but we'll just let it go. So once again, this to me was a parallel between what Kendrick Lamar said about people liking to dance to Drake's music and kind of pairing that into what he's saying about Drake constantly changing cultures and genres and comparing it to what the Wiz is doing to the people here in the Emerald City who all seem to kind of worship the Wiz in a way. Okay, now he's about to issue another command. He's about to switch.
An announcement from the great and powerful Oz.
I thought it over, and green is dead. Till I changed my mind, the color's red.
So I think something else to point to here is also the shallowness with which he does it. He doesn't have like a good reason for switching from green to red. He's just like, oh, you know what? I thought it over and green is dead and now the color is red, which is like another parallel between the Wizard and Drake, because it's like, has Drake ever really had like a deep or meaningful reason for a lot of the switches that he made? Like whenever he decided to start talking with an accent and making like dancehall music, like I don't recall any interview where he talked about any particular deep or philosophical reason for doing that. It was just like one day we all woke up and Drake was talking with an accent and people just kind of went with it because the music was fun to dance to, as we see here. So the lyric they say is, if you're not seeing red, you shouldn't be seen nowhere. But then they're about to switch because the Wizard says so.
Fashion goes down the drain. Last week when you all was wearing pink, already for me red was old. The ultimate yellow brick is gold.
That's the new color, children. Hit it.
So once again, we see another switch in the genre of music. We see a switch in the wardrobe. We see a switch in the lighting, a switch in everything, all because the Wizard just randomly up and decided, you know what, I feel like doing something else. And so it feels like a really deep parallel, right? And if it were anybody besides Kendrick Lamar, I'd be like, I don't know, that's a bit much. But because it's Kendrick, I could 100% see Kendrick Lamar making that connection of, yeah, you're a phony who people like to dance for. People like to dance to your music. But at the end of the day, you just switch up whenever you feel like it for no reason. And one day everybody's going to realize you're fake. So it's a lot going on there. But like I said, this came more from I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan, and there are even some Drake songs that I like. It's not like I hate Drake, but me being like a Wiz fan and like having memories like as a baby watching this movie and just like I never stopped loving this movie. When I heard that line at the beginning and realized what it was, and then just started making the connections between that and various things I know about the movie and the character of the wizard, I was just like, oh my God, Kendrick Lamar is a genius. This is spectacular. I love it. So, yeah. Tell me what you think in the chat. Like, do you think I'm on point here? If you're watching this after the fact, tell me what you think in the comments. Like, do y'all see the parallels, or do y'all think I'm doing way too much because I just love this movie and wanted a reason to show clips from the movie, show some of my favorite clips from the movie after talking about my favorite football team? Also, if you've never seen The Wiz, because I realize it's an older movie and we're at a point in time where there literally might be people who have been born into this world and they didn't grow up watching this as a kid like I did. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely catch it. I think right now on Google Play it's like $3.99. You might also be able to catch it on Amazon Prime or something. It is a truly, truly amazing rendition of The Wizard of Oz and has some of the best Black entertainers of the time doing it. It's fire. All right, so we're gonna end that there. Thank you guys.